earlier, the reason we are taking the reading before the talk, it's because, unfortunately, some of our people are away on Sunday night, the time of the reading of the book of Eicha. Not only relatives of some of you, but some members who are either in the hospital, nursing home, so they'll be able to hear the reading of Eicha, chapter 4.
צחו מחלה
נעו עברים בחוצות, נגואלו בדם, ולא יוכלו, יגעו בלבושיהם. סורו טמא קראו לעמו, סורו אל תיגעו, כי נצאו גם נעו. אמרו בגויים, לא יוסיפו לגור. פני אדוני חלקם, לא יוסיף להביטם. פני כהנים לא נשאו, וזקנים לא חננו. עודנו תכלנה עינינו, אל עזרתנו הבל. בציפייתנו ציפינו, אל גוי לא יושיע. צעדו צעדנו, מלכת ברחובותינו, קרב קיצנו, מלאו ימינו, קיבה קיצנו. קלים היו רודפנו, מנשרי שמיים, על ההרים דלקונו, במדבר ערבו לנו. רוח אפינו משיח אדוני, נלכד בשחיתותם, אשר אמרנו בצילו נחיה בגויים. שישי ושמחי בת אדום, יושבת בארץ עוז. גם עלייך תעבור כוס, תשכרי ותתארי. תם עוונך בת ציון, לא יוסיף להגלותך. פקד עוונך בת אדום, גילה על חטאותייך. The code of Jewish law, Shulchan Aruch, Tav Kuf Mem Tet, chapter 541, said, and I paraphrase in English, some people follow all the traditions of Tisha B-Av, fasts, and all the other customs, while doing Tisha B-Av itself, they involve with vanity, meaning they just, unfortunately, let's face it, some watching the different news, videos, YouTube, internet, television, all kind of other things on this important day of Tisha B-Av. So he said, he used the word which the Harambam used it earlier, as Eicha, they left the essence, the most important part, and they involve with the side dish. It's like our late Rebbe Rosenblatt used to say, when you're serving the main dish, you have the meat and you have what she called the lokshen, the small side dish. So you leave aside the key, the most important part of the food, the meat, and you involve with the side dish, with the surface things. Meaning, yes, it is important to fast on Tisha B-Av, for sure. It is important to fulfill all the traditions of Tisha B-Av. But the key of Tisha B-Av is the self-retrospection, is the act of the Teshuva, being a penitent, to do a self-search, individually and collectively at that day. That's the key point of Tisha B-Av. So if you join me to think, before we go line by line, pasuk by pasuk, to understand this chapter, just to think what's the causes, what's the reason. Because the name of this month, it's called Menachem Av, meaning the month that, as much as it's the sadness, but it will be a month of comfort in the future, we believe. So the Rambam tells us that time of the fast, you take out, like the Mishnah said in Tractate Ta'anit, you put out a teva, you take out the stand outside of the house of worship, and you create the atmosphere that people start thinking why things happen in a certain way. If you look at the history of our people, the reason of destruction of the last one, the second temple, the second Bein Hamekdash, was the selfless hatred between people. Meaning, you have these two famous fellows, the Talmud tells us, Kמצא and Bar Kמצא, which I'm almost definite that some of you heard that name over my past 10 years here in this capital of Maryland. You heard me speak about these two fellows at least once or twice, but since not everyone's so familiar, it's the idea that there are two people somehow not get along, and because of vendetta, because of feuds and hatred, they just so destructive that they don't care by any price involved, and they just destroy the other party in such a way that they themselves be destroyed as a result. It's a very famous story about the great Rabbi Yisrael of Radin, the Havetz Chaim, that wrote extensively. He was a prolific author not only of halachic books, but also books involved with the ethics and proper behavior. One of them is Gar Yutam. And the story goes that in his house of worship, it was a controversy between people. And he went bad, and it turned to a point that one fellow had his children ill, and the Havetz Chaim said to him, "Don't you realize your children are ill?" And he didn't care. He just continued on and on and on, fighting against the other party. Then unfortunately, he lost one of his children. And the Havetz Chaim came to him and he said, "Don't you realize that you're losing your children?" And he said, I translated from Yiddish, he said, "I will lose them all, but I will win this fight." Which means that for some people, winning, right or wrong, is more important, not forgiving. Carry such a tremendous hatred that goes so far to even bigotry. If they carry such a venom, animosity against others, that they cross all the lines. The story of Kמצא and Bar Kמצא, which applicable unfortunately to our times, was a fellow in short who was disliked by other fellow. One fellow, it's not clear what is his name, but let's call him Mr. A. And Mr. A has an enemy that whose name is Kמצא. And the servants, Mr. A was a wealthy man, And the servants of Mr. A sent by mistake an invitation for a big party to his enemy, to Kמצא, while he intends to send it to a different name, Bar Kמצא. It's like in our language, you send invitation, you tell your servant to send it to Goldstein, and they send it to the gold. Right? So in a sense, they made a human error. Upon receiving this invitation, Mr. Kמצא felt, oh, Mr. A wants to make peace with me. So sure, as much as we have differences in our thought, in our businesses, in our conflicts, he wants to make peace with me, I'm going to make an effort and I'll attend his party. Well, since Mr. A was so affluent and he had all the sages there, tremendous amount of attendance, at least according to the Talmud, a couple of hundred sages attended that party. Kמצא sat in a table, and while Mr. A was greeting his guests, go from one table to another, suddenly he realized that his enemy, Mr. Kמצא, is sitting there. What are you doing here? He said to him. And he said, Kמצא responded, he said, you invited me to your party. He says, no. So he said, I can show you the invitation. So he called his servant, Mr. A, and it turns that the servant made a mistake and they sent it to Kמצא instead of Bar Kמצא. So Kמצא said to Mr. A, he said to him, well, I understand that it's a mistake, but since I'm already here, and so many people are here, and everybody watching us, just, I'll pay for my plate, and let me stay here. And Mr. A said, no, you have to leave right now. Does that sound familiar to you? Then, Kמצא said to him, well, don't embarrass me. Guess what? I'm going to pay you for my entire table. Not just my plate, the entire table, just let me stay. And Mr. A said, no, you got to leave right now. Kמצא said, well, look how many people are here, all these great rabbis, all these people that are around here, all the city of Jerusalem are here. Can you please let me stay? And I can assure you I'm going to pay for the entire party. Whatever the costs involved with this party, I'm going to pay. And unfortunately, Mr. A not only told him that he must leave, he just grabbed him by his hand with his servant and he threw him out of his house. Throw Kמצא out, and Kמצא was filled of anger, not only against Mr. A, which was his sworn enemy, but also against all the people who intimidated by Mr. A wealth that didn't respond to what's happening. Right or wrong, he started figuring out a vendetta. But the vendetta wasn't only a feud against Mr. A, but against all the sages, all the people were there. So he figured out that the Caesar in Rome is one of his friends and customers in business. So he went to the Caesar of Rome, he traveled there, and he said to him, the Jewish people betrayed you. And he said, no, no way. So he said to the Caesar, I can prove it to you. Try to bring a sacrificial offering in their temple, and you will see what happened. They will not accept it. The Caesar said, fine. So Kמצא took from the Caesar an animal, and while on the way, the Talmud tells us, he put a blemish on that animal on purpose. Some said around the mouth, some said around the eyes. It's all kind of version where exactly the blemish took place. But the Torah tells us that the offering cannot involve with blemish when you bring it in the temple. So when he got there, it was clear in one hand it's from the Caesar, but on the other hand there's a blemish. And among the priests, it was a very serious controversy how to handle it. Some hold that regardless, we have to put it as an altar, since the Caesar controlled the whole regime, the whole area, and it's not worth it not to do it. Others said, if you take from the Caesar a blemished animal, you can take from anyone who brings a blemished animal. So it was one priest by the name of Zechariah ben Avkulas who said, people will say that we can have an offering with blemish and it's accepted. So Rabbi Yochanan said, sometimes to be too much, too zealous, too humble, too involved with zealousy, it's also not so good. So he said, this extreme, in that sense, they have to make an exception. But because Zechariah ben Avkulas insisted not to accept it, the word came back to the Caesar that the Jewish people did not accept his offering, and he sent his forces and they destroyed and burned the temple, mass killing of the Jews, and the rest, it's history. So what's the message involved in here? Why we still do not have a temple? It's because we still have those issues among ourselves, these issues of people not forgiving. Yes, we all going through life with many things that happen to us who's wrong, who's not right. Can be a friend that betrayed us. Can be a business partner that wasn't loyal to us. Can be a family member. Can be a lot of situations in life that carry a great pain. But if we're not let it go, if we are not forgiving, if we carry this feeling of so much hate and sometimes needs for revenge, then we're not only hurting ourselves, we're hurting others as well. I know some people that carry anger against people who are dead for 20 years, but they're still angry at them. The answer is we cannot take one situation in life and destroy all of our future individually and collectively. The good example I would like to conclude this talk is the famous story in the book of Bereshit, the Genesis, which we all familiar, the story of Joseph and his brothers. This is a story of brothers against brothers. Right or wrong, it is clear that Joseph, in our language, has all the rights, at least, if not to pay them back, to do something to his brothers. Yet, if you read carefully the text, what happened between Joseph and his brothers, he never took a vengeance. He wasn't revengeful. He never had any type of vendetta against his brothers. Instead of paying them back, quote unquote, he showed his compassion, his mercy, his forgiveness. That's exactly the opposite of behavior of Kמצא and Bar Kמצא in the Talmud. That's the way that we'll be able to rebuild the third temple. The idea that things happen in life, we let it go. We should not carry any very deep bad feeling over events. That's life to each and every one. We go through all kinds of challenges in life, but we should learn the lesson from all those mistakes in the past. It is our call, serious call at time of Tisha B-Av, not only to fast, but to make a self-search in our lives. This is a great opportunity to think and reevaluate all those events that happened in the past and the effects that they have on us and our developments. If we want to involve with a better future, individually and collectively, we have to make a great effort not only to forgive, but also to let it go deep in our hearts, to think in a sense of how should I be part of rebuilding of Bein Hamikdash. Bein Hamikdash, the Holy Temple, applied to our miniature temple, as the Vilna Gaon said that this Megillah applied to a personal level, guf and neshama, soul and the body, applied to the community, and applied to the whole world. Ki beiti beit tefillah yikare lechol ha'amim, King Solomon prayed that the house of worship will be the channel between man and God for the whole world. Because the building of the Bein Hamikdash is not only the building, it's the prayer that we restore peace. Peace in our heart, peace in our home, and peace in the world.